Buccaneers 7-round mock draft. C.J. Allen headlines defensive reset after Lavonte David exit. C.J. Allen stepping into the role left behind by Lavonte David isn't just a draft projection. It's a statement about where this Buccaneers team is headed next. Because this isn't just about replacing one player. It's about rebuilding an identity that slipped away in the second half of last season. Tampa Bay started 2025 looking like a team that had figured things out. At 6-2 before the bye week, everything pointed toward control of the NFC South. The offense was clicking, the quarterback was playing at a high level, and the emergence of a rookie wide receiver gave them a dynamic edge. Then the bye week hit, and everything changed. 7 losses in the final 9 games turned a promising season into an 8-9 finish. That collapse didn't just cost them a playoff spot. It exposed deeper issues in consistency, depth, and overall roster balance. And when a season ends like that, the consequences usually follow. The coaching staff faced scrutiny, particularly around game management and adjustments. There were real questions about whether continuity made sense. In the end, the organization stayed the course. But keeping the same leadership meant something else had to give. And it did. A veteran wide receiver moved on. Not because of financial disagreements, but because of a desire for something different. That alone tells you a lot about the direction and feel inside the building. Then came the defensive losses. A starting cornerback departed. A longtime leader at linebacker stepped away from the game entirely. And suddenly, what used to be one of the more stable defensive cores in the league became a unit full of uncertainty. That's the context for this draft. This isn't about adding luxury pieces. This is about filling real gaps, and doing it in a way that reshapes how this defense plays. So when the Buccaneers go on the clock in round 1, the decision carries more weight than usual. At pick 15, the selection is C.J. Allen. And this is where things get interesting. Allen isn't the most commonly mocked player to Tampa Bay, but the fit makes sense when you look beyond surface-level needs. He's built to step into a leadership role immediately. At 6'1" and 230 pounds, he has the physical profile teams look for in a modern linebacker. But the real value shows up in how he plays against the run. He diagnoses quickly, attacks blocks with purpose, and consistently finds his way into the backfield. His production reflects that, with strong tackle numbers and a high volume of run stops. More importantly, he was the communicator for his college defense. The one relaying calls, organizing alignments, and keeping everyone on the same page. That matters here, because replacing Lavonte David isn't just about statistics. It's about replacing a presence, someone who understood the system, controlled the tempo of the defense, and brought consistency every week. Allen has the traits to grow into that role. Now, he's not a finished product. His zone coverage still needs development, and there will be a transition period as he adjusts to NFL passing concepts. But the athletic ability is there, and that gives him a foundation to build on. And when you consider that the team already added a veteran linebacker in free agency, this pick isn't about desperation. It's about long-term stability. Moving into the second round, the focus shifts to the edge. With the 46th pick, the Buccaneers select Malachi Lawrence. If the first pick was about leadership, this one is about pressure. Lawrence brings a combination of size and explosiveness that immediately stands out. At 6'4" and over 250 pounds, he has the frame teams want coming off the edge. But what separates him is how quickly he gets upfield. His first step is aggressive, and when he times it right, he can disrupt plays before they fully develop. The production backs it up. Consistent quarterback pressures, a solid number of sacks, and a steady ability to affect the pocket. But there's still work to be done. His play strength against the run needs improvement. Setting the edge consistently is an area where he struggles at times. especially against stronger offensive linemen. That's where coaching becomes important, because the tools are clearly there. He can win with speed, but he also shows flashes of converting that speed into power. That versatility gives defensive coordinators options when designing pass-rush packages. And that's exactly what this defense needs. A player who can line up in different spots, create mismatches, and keep offenses guessing. By the third round, the approach becomes more about flexibility. At pick 77, the selection is Kyle Lewis. This is one of those picks that might not stand out immediately, but it has a clear purpose. Lewis isn't your traditional linebacker. In fact, he's undersized for the position. But what he lacks in size, he makes up for with athleticism and awareness. He moves well in space, reacts quickly to developing plays, and shows a strong understanding of route concepts. That's why his role at the next level likely won't be limited to one position. He can line up in hybrid roles, contribute in sub-packages, and provide support in coverage situations where bigger linebackers might struggle. In today's NFL, that kind of versatility has real value. Offenses are constantly creating mismatches. Having a defender who can adapt to different looks without being a liability gives the defense more flexibility overall. And that's a theme you start to see develop with this draft class. It's not just about filling spots. It's about building a unit that can adjust. In the fourth round, attention turns to the secondary. With pick 116, the Buccaneers take Will Lee III. The departure of a starting cornerback creates an immediate need, and this pick addresses it with a developmental approach. Lee has the size teams want on the outside. He's comfortable playing physical at the line, and his movement skills allow him to stay with receivers through their routes. Where he really stands out is in man coverage. He shows confidence, fluidity, and the ability to mirror effectively. That's something you can build on. The challenge comes in zone concepts. Adjusting to spacing, reading the quarterback, and understanding route combinations are areas where he'll need to improve. But in the right system, with the right coaching, that development is possible. And given the defensive scheme Tampa Bay runs, there's an opportunity to ease him into a role that plays to his strengths early on. By the time we reach the fifth round, the focus shifts to depth. At pick 155, the Buccaneers select DeMonte Capehart. This isn't a position of immediate need, but it's one where depth matters over the course of a season. Capehart brings size, strength, and surprising athleticism for his position. He's effective against the run, using his hands well to control gaps and disrupt blocking schemes. That's where he can contribute early. As a pass rusher, he's more of a pocket disruptor than a finisher. But even that has value. Collapsing the interior forces quarterbacks to move, and that can create opportunities for edge rushers to make plays. It's a complementary role, but an important one. In the sixth round, the Buccaneers finally address the offensive side of the ball. At pick 195, they select Tanner Koziol. This is a different kind of addition. Koziol isn't defined by speed or separation. Instead, his game is built around size and catchability. At 6'6", he presents a large target, particularly in contested situations. And that's where he excels. Winning those one-on-one moments can be valuable, especially in red zone scenarios where space is limited. There are areas to improve. Route refinement, consistency in catching, and development as a blocker will all be part of his transition. But as a depth option at tight end, he offers something the roster currently lacks. A player who can go up and make difficult catches when the play breaks down. Finally, in the seventh round, the Buccaneers take a chance on upside. At pick 229, the selection is Vincent Anthony Jr. This is the kind of pick where traits matter more than production. Anthony has the size and length teams look for in a developmental edge rusher. His wingspan allows him to engage blockers and create separation when he times his moves correctly. There are flashes on tape where everything comes together. The get-off, the hand usage, the pursuit. But consistency is the challenge. His agility limits some of his effectiveness, and setting the edge against the run is still a work in progress. That's why he's available this late in the draft. But in this range, the goal isn't perfection, it's potential, and if that potential develops, this becomes a valuable addition to the rotation. When you step back and look at the entire draft class, a clear pattern emerges. This is a defensive reset, not just in terms of personnel, but in philosophy. You're adding leadership at linebacker, explosiveness on the edge, versatility in the middle, and developmental pieces in the secondary and defensive line. It's a layered approach, one that addresses immediate concerns while also building for the future. And it reflects an understanding of what went wrong last season. The late-season collapse wasn't just about one unit or one issue. It was about depth, adaptability, and the ability to respond when things started to go the wrong way. This draft attempts to fix that, not with one big move, but with a series of calculated decisions, the kind that don't always generate headlines, but can change how a team functions over time. And ultimately, that's what matters here. Because the Buccaneers aren't starting from scratch. They still have pieces in place. But if they want to avoid another second-half collapse, they need more than just talent. They need balance, flexibility, and players who can grow into bigger roles. This draft is a step in that direction. Now the question becomes how quickly those pieces come together. And that's where things get interesting moving forward. So looking at this class as a whole, which of these picks do you think has the biggest impact on turning this defense around?